Long story, so I'll summarize. My wife and I have been married for 8 years and have been together for nearly 10. At the start of our relationship, my wife and my mom got along great. My mom even told me that she thinks I found the one. Things started to change after we got engaged. My wife chose not to take my mom wedding dress shopping and took her grandmother, her mother, and her two maids of honor. My mom also said the bridal showers made her and my sister feel very uncomfortable because my wife comes from money and my family was lower middle class. Even more background, my mom grew up dirt poor and suffered a lot of abuse growing up, which I think gave her a lot of undiagnosed mental health issues. My mom told me all of this, and I was able to communicate this to my wife. My wife did her best to make her and my family feel included in the wedding, and I think overall it went very well, and I thought things were great. For years, things stood like that, just fine. My wife felt she had to walk on some eggshells not to offend my mom, but she was capable and willing to do this. However, one time during a family trip, my mom broke down and told me she was having a hard time letting go of me, and how we used to be best friends and now she doesn't know me. This was 5 years into my marriage, and I told her I thought it was strange how it was just now coming up. But alas, things changed for the worse when my wife got pregnant with our child, M2. Once we announced that she was pregnant, my mom made it known that she was going to buy a pack of diapers every time my dad got paid. My mom has always been a stay-at-home mom. A few months into the pregnancy, my wife let it slip that her mom, my mother-in-law, was planning on a big diaper drop. Once my mom heard this, she broke down again about how her gifts are never enough, and that she feels like my wife and I feel that she's not going to be good enough for our future child. Also, a few months after, at lunch, we got on the topic of the birthing room. I told my mom, dad, and my wife that I was comfortable with whatever my wife wanted. My wife said she wanted me, her mom, and her cousin in the room. My mom immediately busted out into tears about how she wasn't good enough to be in the room for her first grandchild. My wife explained that she would just be more comfortable with her mom, me, and her cousin. And my mom responded that when she birthed me, her mother-in-law, my grandmother, was there in the room. And she was uncomfortable, but knew it was a special time for my grandmother. My wife eventually apologized, and they reconciled to let bygones be bygones. This conversation turned out to be moot anyway, because with Infection 19 restrictions at the time, I was the only person allowed in. Fast forward to the night before my son's first birthday, we're eating dinner, and my wife is showing my mom that she always squishes his blueberries before feeding them to my son. My mom yells, "Do you guys think I'm stupid? I've raised children before." This blew up into a huge fight, once again about my mom feeling that she's never going to be good enough to be around my son, and how my wife and I make everyone feel uncomfortable with our strict parenting techniques. She also said a lot of things about my wife personally, even calling her a snobby witch at some point, and pretty much ruined my son's first birthday. A few months later, my mom apologized for saying all of those things before my son's birthday, but didn't exactly apologize for what she said. My wife did not forgive her, rightfully so, but said she could come around still because my wife did not want to ask me to cut my mom out of our lives. Fast forward once again to a few weeks ago, my mother-in-law comes in to watch my son when I was traveling for work, because my wife, who's a nurse and works 12-hour shifts, cannot pick my son up from daycare. My mom gets her feelings hurt and says, "I just never feel like I'm good enough." This one was on me because I had previously told my mom she could watch my son when I went on this trip. I had to travel again a few weeks later, and we told her she could watch my son then. She came in on a Friday and was supposed to stay a week. Things were great for the first few days, but then, the day before I'm supposed to leave for work, we have another incident. My wife was planning on making lunch, but my mom said she was going to go get tea from a fast food chain. I asked my mom to just get me a snack so I can still eat my wife's lunch. And my mom comes home with my snack, my drink, and a full combo for herself. For context, my mom does have a medical issue where she needs to eat, or she has issues. My mom explained that she cannot wait that long to eat between meals, but my wife felt like she did not want to eat her cooking and was pretty passive-aggressive the rest of the day. Eventually, my mom catches on that my wife is upset and calls her out for not talking to her. This starts a big fight, and my mom goes and stays in a hotel, but still watches my son while I'm gone. I come back early from my work trip to minimize the time that my wife and my mom have to be alone. My mom calls me a few days later and tells me not to talk to her if my wife is around. She also says her biggest regret is that my friend introduced me and my wife, and she wishes that I picked a wife that could get along better with the family. She says for my sake, because she knows my wife gives me hell, she can exit the picture, and my wife can have what she always wanted, me to herself and my mom out of the picture. My wife has made some mistakes, but I would say 80% of the issues come from my mom. I have told both my wife and my mom that I support my wife in this, but obviously this is still tough on me to not have a relationship with my mother. What should I do? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Your mom has been pulling this needy, passive-aggressive, insecure, I'm not good enough behavior for years. Your wife is sick of walking on eggshells, and I don't blame her. No matter what she does, her mother-in-law is going to find a way to make it about her and perceive everything as a personal attack. Your mom is deeply insecure and will feel inadequate no matter what you do. It would get old fast. Who wants to manage an adult's feelings while also managing a toddler's feelings? Comment 2. As you've identified, your mom sounds like she has mental health issues and unresolved problems from her upbringing that are causing difficulties for you and your family. Continue to stand by your wife. Consider reducing contact if necessary with your mom, and maybe even encourage her to seek therapy. It's never too late. You can also consider seeing a therapist yourself to help deal with the guilty feelings you have, even though neither you nor your wife have done anything wrong. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around. So, the other day, my mom decided to drop a bomb on us. She claimed she had proof that my wife was cheating on me with her ex. I didn't believe it, but the doubt crept in. My wife was furious, denying everything, and I was caught in the middle. Turns out my mom had photoshopped messages to make it look like my wife was being unfaithful. My sister found out and told me the truth. She said mom had been planning this for weeks, trying to break us up. I was livid, feeling like a fool for even doubting my wife. But that wasn't the end of it. The next day, my wife's cousin, who's always been a bit of a troublemaker, decided to stir the pot. He told my wife that I had been seen out with an old girlfriend from college. It was a lie, but my wife confronted me, and we had a huge fight. It took a lot of convincing and a few calls to old friends to prove I was innocent. My wife's cousin later admitted he made it up because he was jealous of our relationship. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, my mom had a health scare. She was rushed to the hospital with chest pains. It turned out to be a false alarm, but it shook everyone up. My wife, despite everything, was the first to suggest we go see her. At the hospital, my mom broke down, apologizing for everything. She said she was just scared of being alone and pushed too hard to keep me close. My wife, bless her, accepted the apology, and it seemed like we were on the path to healing. But then my dad called. He was upset, saying my mom had left the hospital and taken a bus to her sister's place across the state. She left a note saying she needed time away to think. My wife and I were both worried, but also angry that she'd pull a stunt like this after what seemed like a breakthrough. We tried to focus on our own family, but the drama followed us. At work, my wife was passed over for a promotion she deserved. The reason? Her boss said there were concerns about her stability, given all the family drama that seemed to follow her. It was a low blow, and we both knew my mom's antics had somehow reached her workplace. I was feeling the strain too. At my job, I was put on a performance review because I'd been distracted. I couldn't blame them, but it felt like everything was falling apart. My wife and I were arguing more, both stressed and tired from the constant battles. Then, out of nowhere, my mom showed up at our door. She said she'd been doing some thinking and realized she needed to let go. She wanted to make amends, starting with helping my wife get the promotion she deserved. She had connections we didn't know about and promised to set things right. It was a lot to take in. My wife was skeptical, but she agreed to let my mom try. And somehow it worked. My wife got the promotion, and things at her job started to improve. It felt like maybe, just maybe, we were turning a corner. But I can't shake the feeling that there's more to my mom's sudden change of heart. She's been too quiet, too helpful. It's like she's up to something, but I can't put my finger on it. My wife thinks I'm being paranoid, but after everything that's happened, I can't help it. I want to trust my mom, but it's hard. Anyway, thanks for reading. Am I the idiot for dumping my boyfriend after he suggested a threesome and lied about texting his ex? Hi, everyone. For context, I'm a 20-year-old female, and my boyfriend is a 23-year-old male. We've been together for a few months now, and things have been good, and our intimacy life is really good too. This morning, we ended up talking about the topic of threesomes, not about us doing it, but just the concept in general. He had a threesome before with his ex-girlfriend, and he claimed it was her idea. It was the only time he ever had one, and he never had one again, and said it was overrated. My opinion on threesomes is that if you're dating someone and your partner suggests having a threesome, they don't really value you or your relationship. It seems like they want to seek out other people without losing you or cheating on you, so they suggest a threesome as a way to do that. I know some people may disagree, but that's just how I view it. I am a jealous person and I don't like sharing. When you're single, I feel like it's different. Anyway, my boyfriend disagreed with my opinion and said that he thinks it's just fulfilling your partner's fantasy. So, if your partner wants to have a threesome, he believes it's worth a try. He thinks threesomes are just about intimacy, and there's nothing more to it. He believes that the third person is just used for intimacy and nothing else. For some reason, hearing that really bothered me. He also said that if I wanted a threesome, he would do it, but he would never suggest it himself because he doesn't care for them. But if it's something I want, he would do it for me. I don't know why, but I just wish he wouldn't even be open to that idea. To me, it's like saying that he's okay with sleeping with someone else too, and he can just casually act like nothing happened. I feel like it ruins the intimacy with someone who's supposed to be special. I guess I am more old school in my thinking. After that conversation, he reassured me that he doesn't want a threesome, but now I fear that he does and might suggest it in the future. Any thoughts or advice on how to handle this situation? I really want to not be upset, but I definitely am. Update. Wow, I never thought that this post would blow up the way it did, but damn it did. I appreciate everyone's feedback. My boyfriend and I spoke about it again, and at the end of the day, neither of us want a threesome. It was only a thought if I would be interested, but I obviously won't be, so it is what it is. It's cool that some of you guys are into it, but I'm not, so I don't know what else to say. For those calling me names and saying I'm crazy, here's some context. I am an overthinker, and I've had 2 physically and mentally hurtful relationships where I got cheated on. I am currently in therapy working on my mental health, so I can be better for myself and my current partner. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. So you're having a fight about a hypothetical situation in which you basically agree on an outcome, not wanting to have a threesome, for slightly different reasons. In other words, you're making up a problem where one doesn't exist. Don't spend your life and ruin relationships over hypotheticals. Comment 2. I think you both agree that you don't want a threesome. You are monogamous. Him because he'd prefer to just have intimacy with you. You are on the same page and just reading different sentences. Stop stressing about it and enjoy the rest of your book. Now for the update. Hi everyone. Thanks for all the comments from last time. So, things took a turn these past few days. Remember how I said I was worried my boyfriend might want a threesome in the future? Well, I found out he's been texting his ex, the one he had the threesome with. I saw her name pop up on his phone and I couldn't help myself. I looked at the messages. They were talking about their past, and she was reminiscing about the good times they had. He didn't shut it down. Instead, he was vague, didn't mention me, and that hurt. I confronted him about it, and he said it was nothing, that she reached out and he was just being polite. But why be polite to someone who's clearly crossing a line? He apologized, said he'd stop talking to her, but the trust is shaken. I mean, if he's willing to entertain his ex like that, what does that say about us? Then, as if that wasn't enough, my best friend told me she saw him at a bar with some girl. He told me he was with his buddies that night. I asked him and he got defensive. Said my friend must have seen someone who looked like him, but she sent me a photo. And it was him, no doubt. He finally admitted he met up with an old friend who was in town, a female friend, and didn't tell me because he thought I'd get the wrong idea. Well, I did, and I think I'm right to feel that way. I was so mad I almost broke up with him right there. But he begged me to give him another chance, swore it was innocent. I agreed, but on one condition: full transparency from now on. He agreed, but I'm not sure I can trust him again. The next day, I got a message from his ex. She said she was sorry for causing trouble and that my boyfriend had told her he was single. That was the last straw. I showed him the message, and he had nothing to say. He just stood there looking guilty. I told him we're done, and this time I meant it. I packed up his stuff and told him to get out. He tried to apologize, but I was done listening. I've been through too much to deal with this kind of disrespect. It's hard, but I know I made the right choice. I need someone who's honest and loyal, not someone who hides things and lies to my face, so that's the update. It's been a rough few days, but I'm standing my ground. I deserve better, and I'm going to make sure I get it. Thanks for reading. Am I the idiot for feeling betrayed by my husband, who prioritizes his church and ex over our marriage? My husband and I have struggled with intimacy since the beginning. We waited for marriage, as we were very religious when we first met each other. We have since left Christianity, more specifically Mormonism, if you know. Despite waiting, we still messed around, and I felt so desired by him. Once we got married, it's like a light switched, and he was a different person, in terms of expressing his desires for me. For a while, almost any time we had intimacy, he would go soft. He was embarrassed and humiliated, and I felt awful. Because this issue made intimacy so iffy for us, I never made my pleasure a priority, because I just wanted him to feel comfortable in an attempt to keep things from crashing and burning. We started discussing him going to see the doctor to see if he had erectile dysfunction, ED. After many tests and months of waiting, his doctor told him he had low testosterone. She gave him a few options to help with that, but he's done nothing since. We still don't know if he has ED, because he has yet to call her back and talk to her about it. My issue here is that I've cried and begged for him to do something, and he hasn't. I'm dying here. We have intimacy maybe once a week. It seems now it's been once every couple of weeks. His intimacy drive is so low, and he said he's tired of talking about it. He makes me feel bad for bringing it up, but I'm tired of not being pleasured when we have intimacy. He's honestly not very good at it, but I've never said anything to spare his feelings because of him potentially having ED. My therapist said that I don't have a high intimacy drive. He just has a low one. While that made me feel a little better about myself, it also made me feel depressed. I love intimacy. I want to have intimacy and have fun and feel good, but I simply can't. He's done nothing to change anything in the 3 years we've been together. I'm constantly turning to masturbation because I feel so irritable and angry when we haven't had intimacy for a while. This is a difficult situation for me because we're married. I can't just dump him, but can I? Nothing has changed. I feel like his mother when I ask him if he's talked to the doctor. Does he just not care? Is he not interested in me anymore? It's so confusing. He says he's embarrassed, but why doesn't he want to change that? He gets angry when I bring this up and thinks I only want intimacy from him because this is truly the only issue in our marriage. I don't just want him for intimacy. I just want us to be able to have an intimacy and both feel comfortable and safe. I'm in love with him and want to feel close to him, but man, I've been feeling so incredibly lonely. I don't know, help. Edit. We have tried many things in the bedroom to spice things up. Probably anything you can think of. I don't want to give details, but we have tried many ways to go about things. I also am not nagging him constantly. Last week was the first time I brought it up in months, and before that it had also been months. My issue here is that he's been told there is an issue with his body, and he's choosing not to take care of himself, which is negatively impacting him and me. Also, me saying I love intimacy stems from me having intimacy in high school and having a lot of fun with it. When my husband and I met, we agreed to wait. I get it, it's stupid, but it's what we thought was best at the time. Sometimes the intimacy is really good, but sometimes things don't work out, and he gets angry and says he's tired of his body failing him. Edit. Thanks all for the helpful advice. We talked yesterday and it went well. He called the office today and made an appointment to talk with his doctor. Fingers crossed we figure something out. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I, 25 years old, male, have been in a situation where I was struggling to get in hard-on because of medications when having intimacy with my girlfriend at the time. When the treatment ended, the erectile dysfunction problem persisted because I had felt so humiliated and stressed by this situation that I could still not relax and enjoy intimacy, even though there was no more biological problem. The stress came partly from my partner's poor reactions and lack of patience, understanding, but mostly from myself. So all this to say that maybe your husband is just feeling very bad and insecure about this. And maybe it's actually caused more by psychological factors. An intimacy therapist would be more appropriate than the doctor. Comment 2. You need to talk to him. Otherwise, it will just get worse and lead to you cheating or divorce down the road. I'm not saying you have plans to cheat now or anything like that, but how long are you willing to look into the future on this? A year, 5 years, 10 years, all without intimacy. I am lucky that both my partner and I have pretty good libidos. And yes, marriage is not just about intimacy, but he is not even trying to get help. That is the main problem. He should see a doctor and a therapist if possible. A healthy diet with a good amount of fruit could also help. Doing romantic things without the pressure of intimacy afterward might also help. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So after my husband made that appointment, I thought we were finally on the right track. But let me tell you, it's been pretty up and down. He went to the doctor, all right, and they prescribed him some medication to help with the low testosterone. For a minute there, things started to look up. He seemed more energetic, and I dared to hope that maybe, just maybe, we'd get back to where we once were. But then, out of nowhere, he stopped taking the meds. Said they made him feel weird, and he didn't like it. I found the bottle, nearly full, tucked away in the back of the medicine cabinet. When I confronted him, he got defensive. Said he didn't need pills to prove anything to me or to himself. It was like he was choosing his pride over our relationship, and it stung. I felt so helpless, watching him throw away what could have been our chance at normalcy. And as if that wasn't enough, I caught him lying to me about working late. Turns out, he's been meeting up with some of his old buddies from the church we left. They've been filling his head with ideas about how our problems are a test of faith, how we turned our backs on the church, and now we're paying the price. I couldn't believe it. After everything we went through to break free from that life, he's slipping back into it, and it's like he's dragging me along, whether I like it or not. I tried to talk to him about it, but he just shuts down. Says I wouldn't understand because I never believed as strongly as he did. It's like there's this wedge between us now, and it's only getting wider. I'm starting to feel like I'm living with a stranger, someone who looks like my husband, but doesn't act like him at all. The worst part, I found out he's been talking to his ex-fiancée. Yeah, the one he was with before he met me, the one who left him because she didn't want to leave the church. He says they're just friends, that she's helping him find his way back to his faith. But I'm not stupid. I see the way he hides his phone when she texts, the way he leaves the room to take her calls. It's like I'm not even there. I'm so angry I can barely see straight. But what can I do? We're married, for better or for worse, right? I keep telling myself that this is just a rough patch, that we'll get through it like we always do. But deep down, I'm scared. Scared that this is it, that we're past the point of no return. And through all of this, our intimacy life is still a mess. We're back to square one, with him going soft and me pretending it's all okay just to keep the peace. I'm so tired of it, of all of it. But I can't bring myself to leave. I love him despite everything. I just wish he could see how much he's hurting me. How much he's risking for what? A sense of belonging? Some misguided attempt at redemption? I don't know what the future holds for us. I'm just trying to take it one day at a time to find some shred of happiness in the mess we've made. But it's hard. So damn hard. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day!